Good evening. I'd like to call to order a regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, January 25th, 2016 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members that have given their lives while defending our country. Would everybody please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Ms. Bettis, you take the roll, please.
Good evening, Your Honor. Mayor Walker.
Here.
Councilmember Squires.
Here.
Councilmember Kerwin.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
Councilmember King. Councilmember McCarch.
Here.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Here. Show Councilmember King absent and excused.
I will, sir.
And for those of you wondering who this young lady is on the end, that's our city attorney, Bridget Mullinex, for when we go into closed session tonight. That's why she's here. Move on to item 4, approval of the agenda as presented.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Monday, January 25th, 2016, as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the table? From the general public? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Lynch.
Aye.
Councilmember Squires.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Aye.
Councilmember McCarch.
Aye.
Councilmember King. I'm sorry. Councilmember Kerwin.
Aye.
Mayor Walker.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. I don't have any community announcements tonight. Move on to item 6, comments from state and county officials. I see we have Mary here from the county. Did you want to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, to the clerk and to the attorney here, and to all in attendance. It's a pleasure to always be here in Garden City. As you all know, that we do have a new commissioner. He was here last week, Commissioner Glenn Anderson. I always want to call him Senator Anderson, okay, because we called him that for so long. But currently, he's Commissioner Anderson. And of course, I'm here in his stead, and I always love to come to Garden City. I want to remind you of our coffee hour. We still have that, okay, and we did have it last month. Well, this month, okay, we're still in this month. We had it this month, and a lot of the residents that are here now were there. We just had a good sharing of information. Some of the school board members are there as well, and it's just a good time to share information. So you're all more than welcome. It's the second Monday of every month, okay? And we have a new time. It's 10:30 a.m., whereas before it was at 11 a.m. And we only go for 1 hour now, so you have to come on in and chat and then be ready to leave after that hour, because we do have another one that occurs after that. Prior to that is Westland, and it begins at 9 a.m. So you're more than welcome. Inkster begins at 12:30, at 11:30. So you're more than welcome to come to any of the coffee hours. You're more than welcome to come and attend. And as always, if I can provide any services to you while I'm here tonight, I'd be more than happy to take it back, as well as to any of the residents that are here as well. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McClendon. Okay, I don't see our state representative here tonight, so we have no petitions or communications. Move on to item 8, which is a public hearing tonight on the annual Community Development Block Grant funding for this year. And for the residents, I get asked once in a while, what's Community Development Block Grant funding? It's federal funding, federal monies funded through the county to us to provide the benefits of directly to persons of low to moderate income in areas where 51% of the residents are of low to moderate income, to reduce negative environmental impacts, to maintain a high level of performance in the management of the CDBG non-federally funded programs. It's also used to improve the quality of life for low to moderate income persons and to create affordable housing for low-income households. So that's the purpose of the Community Development Block Grant. I believe we have $163,000 in funding this year, which we proposed $114,750 of that for citywide housing rehabilitation, $22,950 for the Senior Services Coordinator, $12,000 for CDBG administration, $3,300 for planning. So that's what the Community Development Block Grant's about. That's what the public hearing is for tonight. Anybody wishing to speak on Community Development Block Grant, please come to the podium and state your name. Mr. Wysick.
This is a public hearing, so I hope to ask some questions that I may get some answers to. One of the objectives is to reduce the negative environmental impacts. And I take it in the estimated funding that that particular section is proposed under the citywide housing rehabilitation. Is that correct? Or is there anything in the near future that will impact the negative environmental areas of this city?
Okay, Mr. Wysick, this is the annual funding for the CBDG. I just explained the program. If you have any questions, write them down, give them to Allison, we'll get you the answers. This is not question and answer time. This is your opportunity to make a
This is a
comment.
public
This is
hearing.
your opportunity to make a comment or a statement. I
No,
explained the
a
program. I'm
public
not going to
hear-
argue with you. If you
Well,
have
no,
a
you wouldn't
question,
argue with me when you're wrong.
no, listen.
A
if you
public
want-
hearing for all purposes is an exchange and to get some information from you relative to this.
I just provided the information, what this is
No,
all
I
about.
asked you a question.
Write it down, give it to Ms. Bettis, and she'll get you an answer.
Give me an answer. I want the people of the city to hear the answer.
We will.
You don't want to answer because you don't know what it is.
I just
And
explained
I
the
also would
program.
like to ask you, of the money
You write
that's
them down?
for CBDG administration, who is that intended for? Who is that intended for? Is that for the purpose of the person who's going to run the program, Mrs. Lynch? You know the answer, or should know the answer. What the hell is a public hearing for? A public hearing in the last 45 years that
It's
I've
to
been
hear
on the
from the
council.
public, and we're hearing from you, and we will
No.
provide you with the answers. I
don't wanna
explained the
hear-
program.
I don't want to hear, because you never answer, you never call. Pat McCards, do you ever answer anything I send you?
This is not your time to
Jim
engage back
Kerwin,
and
do you
forth
ever
with
answer
council.
anything I send you?
All right, Mr. Wysick.
Do you?
Mr. Wysick, I'm
I've
going to ask
been
you to sit
waiting
down.
for you or anybody else to provide an answer.
Mr. Wysick, sit down, please. Sit down.
This is your lousy government at work. Lousy.
Anybody else wishing to make a comment or statement on Community Development Block Grant?
Lousy, lousy,
Okay, I'll close the public hearing at 7:09. We move on to item 9, the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve the consent agenda,
Only speak when you're at the podium, please.
items 9A, 1, 2, and 3.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Discussion from the table, from the general public. Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge? Aye. Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to our B agenda. What's council's wish on housing rehabilitation projects, A, B, and C?
I say the
C.
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 However, can we just
Yeah.
mention them out loud?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
maybe this will help clarify a little bit about what the housing rehabilitation program is that is based on the community development block grant funding that we had our public hearing on. We're looking to rehab a few houses. In this particular case, there's a house that they're looking at the roof, the gutter downspouts, windowsills, lead-based paint hazards, insulation, things of that nature. And each one of these houses has something pretty similar to it, that we are spending the money from the block grant money to rehab this house. The persons of income that would be considered a low income, they do not have to pay it back until the house is sold. When the house is sold, they have to pay that money back out of the sale of the house. So that all comes back to the city so we can reinvest it again in other housing.
And it's also an interest-free loan.
Yes.
And we have 3 of them tonight we're processing.
That's it?
Council's wish to go to C?
C.
Yes.
Okay. Item 2, this is to call for a public hearing on a zoning change from R3 to C3.
C.
C.
See? Item 3 is our 2016 poverty exemption guidelines for property tax appeals.
C.
May I ask, is it the same as last year?
No, it's a little bit,
A little higher?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, item 4, resolution in opposition to Public Act 269.
C.
See? And item 5, change order number 1 for Liquiforce Services for the work done at Middle Belt and Warren.
C.
C.
And number 6, design phase for Hubbard Avenue from Park Lane to Maplewood reconstruction project.
C.
Okay, we will move on to C. Let's do C, C1A.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Squires.
I move to award the contract for the Housing Rehabilitation Project number 15-01-002 to Optimum Contracting Solutions in accordance with the posted bid packet, excluding insulation and handicap ramp, using CDBG funds, and authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Optimum Contracting Solutions in the amount of $22,600 for the remaining items.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Jacobs. Any discussion from the table?
Just to mention that, when I was looking at the information, the reason that they're excluding insulation and handicap ramp is, any single project can only, it has to be 25,000 or less. So that's the reason why they, reduced those 2 items.
And the homeowner is the one that made that choice.
Okay. Any other comments from the table, from the general public? Mr. Wysick?
The total amount of the CBDG funds is approximately $163,000. And $114,000 is for citywide housing rehabilitation, with $22,950 for senior citizens coordinator, $12,000 for the administration of the program, and $3,300 for planning. following items are contingent upon the availability of funds and so forth, 10,000. Now you have 114,000 for these projects. Is it possible, or if the funds are changed for more or less, and you enter into a contract, are you able to make a change in the contract regarding the rehabilitation project?
I believe these fundings are from last year's, right? This isn't out of the 116.
It's not,
It's-
it's not Ryan, it's Patrick.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Patrick.
And yes, they are
Sorry.
from a previous year.
This is from the previous, the ones we're approving tonight are from last year's.
A previous funding.
The budget we're approving tonight is for 2016 on.
We're not approving it tonight.
We're not approving it, we're calling for the
Public hearing.
public hearing.
And the public hearing is relative to these projects.
No.
No, it's relevant to the 163,000 that we
That's
plan
it.
on spending in community development block funding in the next year.
That's what I was just said.
But what's on the table now is to approve this particular home rehabilitation from out of last year's funding.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. We'll do 1B,
Mayor?
CB.
Mayor?
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to award the contract for the Housing Rehabilitation Project 0701072 to Optimum Contracting Solutions in accordance with the posted bid packet using CDBG funds, and to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Optimum Contracting Solutions in the amount of $11,225,000.
Support.
Okay, support from Councilmember Squires.
And just, if I could make a comment?
Yep.
Just, this one is a little bit different because this one is spending time with windows in the bathroom subfloor, lead-based paints, asbestos abatement, so a little different than the other one.
Any further comments from the table, from the general public? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Item 1C,
Mayor,
Councilmember Kerwin.
regarding Housing Rehabilitation Project 1401004, CDBG funded project, I move to award the contract for the Housing Rehabilitation Project 1401004 to Qualified Construction Corporation in accordance with the posted bid pack using CDBG funds, and authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Qualified Construction Corporation in the amount of $14,355.
Support.
Support from Councilmember McCarr. This particular home, the improvements are a roof, including the garage, gutters and downspouts, front porch, driveway, and removal of lead-based paint hazards. Any other comments from the table on this one, from the general public? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to C2. This is a zoning request to call for a public hearing, February 8th at 7 PM.
Your Honor.
Councilmember Squires.
I move to introduce an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Garden City. The ordinance involves a rezoning from R3 Multiple Family to C3 General Business for the vacated alley between property identified as parcels 35-0099-0030-704 and 35-0004-0090-300 and 35-004-0091-302, more commonly known as 31450 Ford Road, and 31450 441 and 31433 Crowder Avenue, and hold a public hearing on February 8th, 2016, at 7 p.m.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any comments from the table? From the general public? Mr. Moller.
I'll just say this again. Somebody's wanting to do something over there, and you keep changing all the ordinances for them, zoning map for them, and nothing gets done. So how about a time limit on some of these changes? You do something within a certain period of time. I'm not saying you have to complete the project, but at least start it. You still got the Dunkin' Donut down there, nothing, and that was changed. And you change them all the time, and then people don't follow through. You change the one on Ford Road by the Shell station, empty. The other place, empty. Put a time limit on them. I'm sure you can do it legally. You have to do something within 6 months, at least. Show some kind of effort instead of just sitting empty all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baco?
What building is that?
Ford Merriman, behind the sewer building. You know the empty lot right on the corner of Ford and Merriman, and then that sewer building, it's behind that. The alley behind the sewer, and then the house is on Crowder, right behind it. Anybody else? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Item C3, 2016 Poverty Exemption Guideline.
Mayor,
Councilmember Jacobs?
move to review and adopt the 2016 Poverty Guidelines for Property Tax Appeals.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any discussion? Oh, was that you?
Lynch.
Sorry, Councilmember Lynch. Any discussion from the table? From the general public? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Item C5, change order number 1 to Liquid Services.
Resolution to opposition, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. C4, resolution in opposition to Public Act 269. Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve the following resolution opposing the recent passed legislation, Public Act 269 of 2015, also known as Senate Bill 571.
Support.
Go ahead and read it.
I don't know that I'm going to read the whole thing,
Okay.
but I want to let people know that the Conference of Western Wayne, at our last meeting, we talked extensively about the opposition we have to this act and the fact that for 60 days prior to, here's one of the paragraphs. The new law prohibits a public body or a person acting for a public body from using public funds or resources for the purpose of communicating any information to the electorate regarding a local ballot question that is to appear on the ballot within 60 days of an election. And the law places an immediate gag order on entities with ballot questions on the March 8th, in this case, ballot, and every election thereafter. So what it's saying is, we know that we can't spend public funds to go towards or against anything that is on the ballot. However, this also, if you come up to us and ask us a question, we're not even allowed to answer the question. We can't even discuss it for 60 days prior to the election, which is wrong. And these were some of the wording that was put in at the 11th hour on the night that they voted for this, which was about 11 o'clock at night. And most people that had voted on it didn't even realize that was hiding in there. So the CWW, including Garden City, has written resolutions of opposition to this, and we're sending them up to Lansing to the governor because this has to be changed. If you have a question, we need to be able to answer that question. We need to give you factual information. And yes, there still is a rule that says we can't spend public funds on it, but we need to be able to give you factual information.
Any other comments from the table? From the general public? Mr. Butler?
Mrs. Lynch, you surprised me. To get an answer from you guys on a question up here is almost unreal. And for you to sit there and say that this is going to keep you from talking, if you go and read the law and read what's already in existence, on your personal opinion, you can talk about it. Not from, yes, you can. From your position as a council person in the public, here, you cannot discuss it, okay? And I know the governor, he had a little say about it at the day that he signed it, that he hoped they would bring some new language back. Personally, I don't. I hope that it stays like it is, because it gives us, the taxpayers, a little bit more leverage out here, because we're already being fought against when they bring up these millages that we already are outnumbered on. And now, all it is just fair game, that we have 60 days, we don't have you to sit up here and make comments or say things in the public eye that will favor the system. Now, the other thing that surprised me, you're being not in the public school system. I am, of all people, thought you would be against this, because charter schools is going to benefit if the public schools don't go forward. Just like we know what's happened here recently with the acquisition of the company you work for that had purchased a former Christian school, and then they plan next year to add another class. So, I mean, I don't understand where you're coming from, because you're trying to put forth to the people that you're here to answer the questions. And we know to get an answer from this body up here is like getting blood from a turnip.
Anybody else? Mr. Weissig.
I thought for a moment tonight about bringing crying towels and giving them to you, but you won't let me go beyond this. I've had a history with going beyond here, trying to present you with something. But dear residents, remember your unfortunate neighbors. Now I have a question. Why are you elected officials crying and whining about these days? Could it be they are getting an overdose of their own medicine? For years, they have fought transparency by excessive charges. A couple of articles in the News and Free Press. Per page on FOIA, $1 a page. 5-minute speaking limits. Flip-flopping of agenda items. Inserting public hearings within the regular council chambers. Refusing to discuss issues. That's our council. They refuse to discuss the issues brought up by residents at council meetings, and this place operates under a general secrecy covering city operations.
Mr. Weissig, what's on the table now is the opposition of Public Act 269.
This is it.
You're talking about council items. You're not talking about this particular act.
This, I am talking about this.
Stay on
If
topic,
you'll-
or I'm gonna ask
If
you
you
to
will
sit
let
down.
me continue without
Stay on-
interruption.
stay on topic.
And please, Mr. Jones, give me a little more time.
That's
for the mayor
Mr.
interrupting me
Jacob.
so rudely. The passing of Bill SB 571, the state legislature placing limitations on their discussions, puts the shoe on the other foot. The mayor says it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Well, yeah. It's what we have been trying to pound in your head, Mayor, for the last 5 years. Well, let's see for a minute how you like being treated like you treat us and the people of this city to the detriment of the city. It's obvious this council and other elected officials do not enjoy losing their privileged status. Thus, the drive to repeal sections, which this resolution is all about, and the passing of this resolution. One overlooked part of the original bill is the great advantage that it gets the government on issues. And Mr. Buckner is 100%. An example, on the city's public safety millage, recall the many city resources, TV, interviews, everything they do that is not available to the people of the city. They will do anything to gain a victory, even try to win to the detriment of the city. Just think how little, if any, could be used and made available to the good voters who are in opposition. In my opinion, this council will grasp every unfair advantage that they can. The word fairness, F-A-I-R-N-E-S, in case you people don't know how to spell it, is just not in your vocabulary.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Jones?
This Public Act, in my opinion, is one of the worst pieces of legislation that they've tried to cram down our throats in a late session. Supposedly, our governor and our elected representatives favor transparency, and this is just trying to curb transparency. Is transparency a good idea or a bad idea? All you have to do is look at the Flint water situation to see how bad an idea it is to curb public comments.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Lynch.
Aye.
Councilmember Squires.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge.
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin.
Aye.
Mayor Walker.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Item C5. Change order.
Mayor,
Councilmember
I
McCarge.
move- I move to approve change order number 1 in an amount not to exceed $49,500 in accordance with the correspondence from Hennessy Engineers Incorporated dated January 20th, 2016.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any discussion from the table? This is the water main relining we did at Warren and Middlebelt. Ryan, you want to come up and explain why we need the change order? Some of the things that we ran into for the residents' benefit? This is our engineer, Ryan, from Hennessy Engineering.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you recall, last fall, we had a pretty bad water main break at the southeast corner of Middlebelt and Warren. It was pretty costly expense to repair. DPS was out there for over a weekend period to fix that. We also had to bring in our sidewalk contractor that was working throughout the city to replace the pavement. There was quite a significant area of pavement that needed to be replaced right in the intersection. It involved a couple lanes to be closed there for a few weeks. If you recall, even prior to that, we had put out to bid a water main lining program in which we only had one bidder, and we rejected that bid due to their cost being what we thought was a little high and would have liked to see other contractors bid on it. We did go back to that contractor after this water main break took place. That intersection was one of the intersections to be rehabilitated as part of that program. And we did negotiate a price with them to get that done before this winter season so that another water main break didn't take place. And so we did proceed with the program, or with that intersection, and completed that in November. We did get a liner in the water main that crosses Middlebelt Road on the south side of Warren Road. However, during construction, we did come across some unforeseen circumstances. We did find some inconsistencies with the existing water main maps in which we found that the water main sizes were different than what was shown on the maps, which did cause some changes to the project. And we also had a water main break that took place just off the site, and that was just out of coincidence, and we had the contractor repair that while they were there instead of having DPS take care of that. And then there was also a cost for, with the work being in the Wayne County right-of-way, there was also permit fees that were associated with the project that we were able to obtain from the county after we had negotiated the price with the contractors. We were in a hurry to get a price and get this project going before the winter season. That's why we have an additional $49,500 in front of you for approval tonight.
Okay. Any comments from the table? Any questions for Ryan? Thank you. From the general public?
How much it cost?
$49,500.
I go by there every day, that way, Air George, that fire, I do fire, cockeye. That up and down, an angle. I go by every day. I look at it, it's that, up and down, it's that level.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Vaco. What's
Fire hydrant,
fire hydrant?
yeah, that level,
This doesn't have anything to do with the fire hydrant.
huh?
It doesn't have anything to do with the fire hydrant.
So why, don't expensive to get put together, how much, so much money,
Things cost a lot these days.
huh?
Things are expensive these days.
We will have Mr. Roney look at that fire hydrant. Okay, anybody else? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember McCarch?
Aye.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Item C6, design phase for Hubbard Avenue from
Mayor?
Park Lane to Maplewood.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to award the design phase services to Hennessy Engineers in accordance with the proposal letter dated December 28, 2016, in an amount not to exceed $32,250.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any discussion from the table? This is the road we plan on doing, the street, Garden City Street, that we plan on doing in our 2016 construction year, which is Hubbard from Park Lane to Maplewood, and this is to design it. So that's what we got in front of us right now. Any other comments from the table? From the general public? Mr. Molnar?
Like I said the last time, they cost me $160-some thousand designing this piece of crap over there again. Now here we are gonna spend more money redesigning another road that's already been designed when they did Maplewood and Hubbard. And here I'm gonna pay another $32,000 to design Hubbard, which was already done once, and you let a handful of people kill the project. I told you then I'd be against it, and I'm not gonna back down from my word. As far as I'm concerned, it's the last street in Garden City that should be repaved. I said it then, and I'll say it now. There's other streets that people want to be repaved, and if you let another handful of people destroy this one, I won't vote for none of you ever again.
Okay.
And that's, I told you then, you wasted $160-some thousand, maybe $180,000 redesigning Maplewood.
That was mainly for Maplewood. I'm going to bring Ryan back up to explain. Ryan?
Go ahead, but I'm just like I said, you're not gonna change my mind no matter what it is.
Just to clarify on the design costs, back in about 2009, the project was originally, or the current design was done in about 2009 by the previous city engineer. We have obtained the plans from the previous city engineer. We will be basically using the same design and modifying it to current standards. We will send our survey crew out there just to take some topographical survey to make sure nothing has changed since that time. Of the $32,250, up to $15,000 would be spent on checking that existing design. That design did not consider the water main that's currently underneath the roadway. So we're gonna, the remainder of that amount of the $32,250 would be to do a little research into the existing water main, look at the water main break history and see if it's warranted to remove and replace the 16-inch water main that's underneath Hubbard. And if so, we would design that, include that into the project.
Ryan, I have a
Yeah.
question for you. Have you researched the, the garage on the corner there of Hubbard and Maplewood? Do you know which one I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
it's been a while. We looked at that when we first came on board with the city, when there was possibly considering doing both Hubbard and Maplewood at that time.
Because I believe that is on our property.
Last I recall, I don't believe it's within the right, I think it's right on the right-of-way line, but I don't believe that garage is.
On or not in?
Yeah, I don't believe it's in the right-of-way, but I think it's on or pretty close to the right-of-way line.
You give me a call, once you do a little
Yeah,
more
we can
research.
take a look at that, yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, maybe I can fill you in on a couple things.
Yeah, that would be good, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Just to clarify that, we paid, back in 2009, we paid $160,000 to have Maplewood engineered and Hubbard.
Yes, that included both Maplewood and Hubbard. So Maplewood from Merriman to Hubbard, which is a half a mile. Hubbard
Right.
from Maplewood to Park Lane is about a quarter of a mile. So this is roughly a third of the full project.
And we're using some of that information for this
Correct.
project.
Correct.
You're doing another $32,000 because we're doing the water main that wasn't done before.
That's correct,
And
yes.
$15,000.
So 15,000 would be to check over the existing plan, make any changes that are necessary. That would also include bidding the project out.
Okay.
And then the
Just wanna get that information
17,000
out
is some
there.
change to do the
Okay.
water main. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Wysick? Mrs. Wysick?
When I first met that gentleman, I asked him, "Are you an engineer?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "You're a pretty good salesman, too."
Thank you. Mr. Wysick?
Have you notified any of the homeowners that will be affected along Moeller by this particular resolution coming up to design phase service? Mr. Molnar brought up a great point. I've already spent $160,000, even if it was for part of Maplewood. But the reason that failed was because there were so many discrepancies. Even if you had 4 choices of great big billboards up there showing the particular design, which was part of a public hearing, when you could talk about things and get answers. Of course, that doesn't happen now. That street is, you're talking about 27 feet, which Mr. Kerwin's concern is about the garage property. But the big point argued at the time before was when you build a 27 wide foot street, where is he going to put his cars? Where's he going to put his cars? You provide no relief for him in that regard. Apparently, you're not going to provide any relief in this particular plan. The plan before, if you're going to do Maplewood, you told him to park on Maplewood, which was at that time going to go to parking on one side or parking on the other side. But you are starting to do this already, as I related before, in secrecy. Good planning and an openness on your part would have some input from the people who are going to be affected and see what could be worked out to them and for them. Because if you don't get their cooperation again, you're going to waste more money, as Mr. Molnar pointed out. Your failure to open up is going to be critical to this particular design.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Buckner?
I'm also against this here, and I think, what was it, 6 years ago when we went back and this all discussion? Sometimes I think we get the wagon in front of the horse. You know, you know the people wanted it. You should approach them so you don't have the same obstacle you did before. Now, I know myself, my son lives down that road, so I travel the road, and so does the Weisicks, who I visit often, they're good friends. And I am applauded, for one thing, that you got potholes there that have been ignored, because I think mainly there's a little hidden agenda behind this, even though you won't admit it. You want the people to say, hey, you know, you got to go along, or else, you know, we're just going to let the potholes grow. And I think the seniors should get behind this and really come up here and scream at you guys for letting that happen, Mr. Mayor. You've got potholes in the front of that place when it rains. It's just unreal. I mean, here you have seniors, that's the only outlet place they have to go. And I've seen them where they pull their car up and not even able to get out. And the thing about it is, you talk about that 27 feet, if it goes in there, you're going to have to go the way the parking is supposed to be anyway. The way the parking's done is not really the way it's designed. The parking is supposed to go the width of the building, or the length of the building. So when you put that 27 feet through there, they ain't gonna have a choice but to do that. So I think, first of all, I don't like the fact that the engineering is always up here asking for money, and you guys are always giving it to him. $32,000, I guarantee it's gonna cost more than that. Look what happened to Florence. Now that really gets me, I'm sitting here thinking, you thought Florence was bad, and you knew this was bad, but you forgot that and went over to Florence. If you knew this was bad, you knew they had involved the seniors, why didn't you go to fix that? I just don't understand some of your thinking up here.
Anybody else? Mrs. Wysick, you already came up on this. No, you're already up once. No, you were already up, though. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Lynch.
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge.
Aye.
Councilmember Squires.
Aye.
Mayor Walker.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Okay, we'll move on to item 10, which is public comments, items that were not on the agenda tonight. Anybody wishing to speak, please come up to the podium and state your name. Mr. Buckner.
Al Bugger, 1516 Middlebelt. Recently, we've heard a lot about accountability and true transparency. We see what happened to Detroit with Kwame. We see now that every day he's wearing a pinstripe suit. We also see what happened in Wayne County, and we, the taxpayer, had to help bail them out of $19 million, okay? And they can come back for more if they want to, because that's the law. Then we see what's going on in Flint, and we see what's going on with the governor not being truly and honest. People are demanding accountability and true transparency. Now, go back about 3.5 years when I start bringing myself up here before this council, and I talked about accountability and true transparency. Go to my website, watchmanforgardencity.com. Read the forward page. You'll see what I talked about, accountability and true transparency. We don't have it in this city. We don't have it in this state. And really, when you think about it, we don't really have it in the national level. You cannot trust politicians anymore, and that's sad. We've come to a state of affairs in our society that you can't hardly trust anybody. Now, a lot of times, I was talking to a friend, let me back up, I was talking to a friend this week, and I said, you know, council people should be given a test to see if they have the ability to apply for the job. He said, I would agree with you, Al, but he says the only problem is you probably wouldn't get enough to run, so therefore you wouldn't have enough to have a council. Because you've got some people that are good council people. They come up here with a heart and with the good intentions, but they're a one amongst 7 up here. And if they want to be brave and stand out and go for the truth of the accountability of true transparency, but I'll be honest with you, it's been, what, 4 years since we've actually seen that up here. I can come here tonight I can show you my paperwork over here. I put 6-0 on there, on everything you guys vote on. You know why? Because I know how you're gonna vote. I don't even have to come to the council meeting anymore. I look at the agenda at home, 6-0, 6-0. If you're 7 here, it'd be 7-0, 7-0, okay? And you wanna call that being together. I don't see no questions. Any questions that's brought up is usually from the general public. We, the people, are looking for accountability and true transparency. Now, when I get up here and give accountability and true transparency and true numbers, I'm called a soothsayer. I'm called, I'm giving out negative vibes. But yet you can have people start a club, get up here and dance to a tune, and they're elected to a council. And then you have other people get up here and slander me, and that's all right. I press charges. You think the chief would investigate it? No. Not warned enough, not even when I had evidence. Accountability and true transparency. We don't have it in Garden City, but we will someday. Now, I'd like to give a hats off to Judge Hammer today because he did the right thing by denying the motion, and we'll go into trial. Another thing, I want to thank the citizens for signing the petition to get the ordinance on the ballot. I'm a little shocked because it's taken off better than what I thought. I thought the opposition was going to be against us, but it's not. Because you know why? There's people out there that are hurting. There's people out there that have family and friends that are almost in the same boat of some of these people. And they fear they could be your next victim. So we're not going away. And this is going on the ballot.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Mr. Wysick?
During the past several weeks, the Flint poison water crisis is filling the airways and newspapers, and with good reason. The lax actions of government has and will continue to take an unbelievable toll on its people, especially the children. There remains open questions as to the role of race and intention in this matter. Further, who can explain or understand if the officials involved were there for the people's interests or for their very own? Does that ring a bell with anyone here locally? In a Detroit News editorial dated September 27th, here are a few excerpts. The title reads, "Transparency is job one in demolition work." Second, that should also mean that erasing all questions about the blight remediation programs are run, and it should be a priority. Last, questions have also been raised about the so-called pre-bidding. Pre-bidding. We've heard that before, of contractors or contracts with a group of hand-picked contractors who met with the mayor's team to settle on charges for the work. Now, the mayor reference in this particular story is to the Detroit mayor. With Garden City homeowners battling to save the homes, does that sound familiar to you? I want to make a couple of thoughts about some of the council people. I made early reference to Mrs. McCarge. And I want to state here that I've known her for many, probably 40 years. And her on-call remark to Mr. Buckner about her hearing aid was uncalled for and shameful. I could never imagine that she would make such a remark. You owe Mr. Buckner a public apology. You will recall, Mrs. McCarge, I wrote you a note on Christmas about this matter. I was reaching out to you. And to this moment, I have not heard a word from you. Mrs. King read the rules and regulations to us, and I had a few words for her, but I'll save that till next time. But I do want to relate to what she was going to bring up, and I want to refer it to the mayor. The Roberts Rules of Order by which this council and most 99% of other legislative bodies follow reads in one section, the control of the meeting by the chairperson should not lead or contribute to rowdy behavior. That person, by history, more often causes the problem than remedies it. And if you've seen, and that's been demonstrated for a long time here, a long time, and I've brought this up before. And because of the failure of the mayor to control the meeting, we have to have police officers here. Have to have police officers here. I feel ashamed that we'd have to have police officers to control the meeting because we're citizens here trying to contribute to the good of the city. Mr. Kerwin, Mr. Squires,
15
at the
seconds.
next meeting, because my time is going, I'll have a few thoughts to say. I will say this, Mr. Jacobs. You said you'd sit and see how things went and so forth. And again, I've got to commend you for you are doing the right thing.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up. Mrs. Wysack.
Talk about the Flint Emergency Manager. The Flint Emergency Manager was dismissed from Flint and is now the emergency manager for the Detroit schools. And he's working very hard on suing the teachers and assigning the children to get rid of the overgrown cockroaches. That's what we've come to. How would you like your child to have an assignment to kill the cockroaches? First, he's fired from Flint. Now he's the Detroit school board. He's the emergency manager for the Detroit schools. The governor gave him another job that he should fail at. Anybody who talks like that. I don't think anybody even cares about the children.
Anybody else? Mr. Molnar? Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Eleanor Ewald, 6110 Harrison. Over the last two and a half months, we've been up here about the stabilization program, about our homes. We also paid for our FOIA, which is sad that Mr. Murray is not here tonight because he needs to be accountable for some of the things in these emails that have come through to light. I won't touch much on Mr. Murray because he's not here and he should be here. There was one thing that was said before about non-being cherry-picked homes. The list was given to the developers in these emails prior to them even being awarded the contract to go over the houses. So if my home was not cherry-picked on this list, why were the developers given the opportunity to go over my home and these 17 other homes or 16 other homes that were not cherry-picked? They went through the list, and then they wrote in the email, yeah, we went over the list. That's cherry-picked. So if they wouldn't have liked my home, or if they thought they couldn't sell a profit on my home, would they have not taken my home? The other thing I wanted to touch base on is you guys always say, oh, let us know, talk to us, email us. In our emails, once again, we've gone through 500 pages. You're instructed not to respond to us. And I have those emails if anybody would like a copy of them. The only person I can say anything nice for is Mrs. Lynch. She's the only person that actually said, are these homes owner occupied? And she wanted a list of the homes that were owner occupied because she was the only one that actually cared to see what happened to the people in these homes. Children are in these homes, and I thank you for that because that was very caring. And I think you would have voted differently had you known people were in these homes. Yes, I am accountable. My house is being taken. I'm being accountable. He needs to be here to be accountable for these nasty emails. In one of the emails, he says, Miss Paula Newcomb, from what I could understand from her weeping on the phone, does this get easier anytime soon? And then he sends another nasty email stating the fact that, well, you know, people, we are responsible to pay our taxes. I get that. People fall on hard times. I did. I get it. But you don't have to be nasty. People sit up here and say, I only make $4,500. I don't make a whole lot up there, so it doesn't cost you guys nothing to be humans. Just be nice to us. We're struggling. You guys, I'm sure, have been young and struggled one time in your lives. It happens. My point is up here. We're asking to send you guys emails and talk to you, and then we're told not to. We're told you're instructed not to respond to us. You're instructed in these emails, don't say anything back. And when you are to say something back, it's written for you. Let's not be humans. We're humans. I want some help. And yeah, I'm sorry I got up here and was nasty and I called you the devil. I shouldn't have, because you know what? I shouldn't have stooped to that level. Two wrongs don't make a right. At the end of the day, my coffin's going to be the same size as the rest of you. I can't take that money with me. I'm just asking for a little compassion. And yeah, it's in litigation now. We'll deal with it, whatever happens. That's fine. My other thing is, each week, I sat and watched when I was sick. And you have the developers who come in here because they want to do good for the city and they want things to be easier on them. Go after Mr. Buckner. Al's a good person to us. Al fights and works hard for us. So I agree with everything Al says. And I really don't care. Mr. Hunt can come up here 500 times and say how terrible Al is and his numbers aren't right. When you're paying those extra taxes on your taxes next year for the stuff they're doing to us now, you'll see how right Al is. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Molnar?
Excuse me. When I spoke on Hubbard, I don't want nobody to get the wrong idea that I'm against all you people up there, because I'm not. I'm against Hubbard, period. Now, I don't believe there's anybody sitting up there that's out to rob, steal, or anything else to anybody sitting out here in this audience. I do not believe that. I believe you're all good people. We're going to disagree from time to time like we do on Hubbard, and we're going to argue about it. But that doesn't mean I think you're out to get me or anybody else. And as far as the Detroit Public Schools, everybody wants to blame Snyder for everything. Snyder's not the problem with the Detroit Public Schools. They've been in trouble for 20 years, and they had elected school boards for most of that time, and all they did was go further in debt, and their schools are falling down. Why? Don't they have a maintenance budget in Detroit Public Schools? And if they do, why aren't they spending it to fix the schools? Or are they doing what they did with the other money they got? They passed a $1 billion bond in Detroit years back for that very purpose, to fix the schools. And they stole all the money. Not just the politicians, but the school board and the people running the Detroit schools. All that money got siphoned off for other projects. They built 1 or 2 new buildings, and the rest of it, and you can't close a school in Detroit. They have schools there that was 50 kids, built for 350 kids. Detroit lost over half of their school kids. And just like all the other school boards in Michigan, they blame Snyder for cutting their budget. Snyder didn't cut your budget. You lost your kids. You lose your kids, you lose over $7,000. Detroit Public School gets more money than Garden City Public Schools. Where's my money from the state to fix my school? That's all I'm trying to say. And I don't think none of you are bad people. We'll disagree. We'll disagree again. We'll argue about it. And that's just the way things are. Nobody's going to agree all the time. But these people up here, they're not up here because they're getting rich. Most of them losing money by sitting up here. By the time they go to the functions, everybody hits them up for the fundraisers. Most of them are money out of their pockets. and I know you do, the city clerk, she does a lot of different things I happen to know. And I know the mayor, you do, all of you do. And I just get tired of hearing how you're robbing everybody. If you was robbing me, believe me, we'd be fighting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Baco.
Cambridge, I call it, Cambridge, no, I call it, Paco Galore, for swim. The road is so bad, Paco, low ground, the swamp. I call it, from a Cambridge, north about 2 blocks.
Anybody else? Okay, Ms. Bettis? Ms. Bettis?
Hi. Let's see what we got here. We, on March 8th, the major parties of the state, of the nation actually, are going to be having an election in which you can suggest your preferences for whichever party you're interested in making that suggestion for. The absentee ballots are available in my office, and after we get your absentee ballot application, we will be happy to send you a ballot if you wish to participate. However, you do have to make a choice. This election is for the benefit of those parties, and so you do have to make a choice as to which one you choose to participate in. And so if you have any questions, please, as always, call our office 793-1620, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5. Also, last council meeting, there were some residents that came up and had some questions in regard to the public hearing for the sidewalk from the special assessment for the sidewalk program from last summer. And I did want to let them know that, and I will call each of them individually, but I did say that we would discuss it publicly to make sure that you know that the ordinance does require that the homeowner is responsible for the repair of the sidewalk. It says that all sidewalks within the city shall be kept and maintained in good repair by the owner of the land adjacent to and abutting upon it. So unfortunately, that is going to be the responsibility of the homeowners, even if they feel that there was a city tree that caused the problem. It has always been the practice that, as for as long as I've been here, just a little short of 20 years, that the homeowner had to take that responsibility. And it's very similar to the responsibility for making sure the grass is cut in the berm, making sure that the snow is shoveled on the sidewalks. It's along those same lines. And so I did want to let you know that basically the principle is that even if it's a city tree, the sidewalk is still the homeowner's responsibility because the homeowner either permitted the tree to be placed or purchased the home with the tree already in place. And so that's kind of the philosophy about it if I'm trying to go back years and years and think for our prior council. So that was that taken care of. Also, just to let you know, on our website is a question and answer about the upcoming March election. And if you have any questions, please refer to that. And again, you can call my office. So on behalf of the city manager, Robert Murray, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs?
Yeah, the only thing I have is, as you know, we've done a bottle drive for, water bottle drive for Flint. Dan at the ice rink has done a really good job. He opened up Glow Skate for case you could get in and do the skate. And as of right now, he's got 180 cases of water. That also came from one of the hockey leagues there and some other skaters there. The fire department, I believe, has collected about 50, between the fire department and the library, about 50 cases of water. The Garden City Over 30 Hockey Association out of the rink, they did a pass the hat Friday night. We were just notified about it Friday afternoon, and we raised about $500 toward that. And with the deal they have with Myers, that should get about 255 cases of water. So that'll all be going, I think, with Senator Knizek, and they have a deal worked out with semis and that, and that'll be going to Flint shortly. And I believe we have till Friday to continue collecting. So fire department, well, basically the fire department would be the easiest. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Lynch?
Yes, first I'd like to make an announcement for the Valentine Afternoon Tea, which is Wednesday, February 10th, from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the Grand Parlor Room of the Straight Farmhouse at the Historical Museum. And this makes it rather special because the location was built in 1866, so it's the perfect room to be able to enjoy an afternoon tea. They're going to have a wide variety of teas to choose from, and tea cakes, homemade tea cakes. Each table comfortably sits 6 to 8 people, and it's on a limited basis. It's $10 per person. So if you're interested in this tea, you want to make sure that you RSVP by February the 8th to the Garden City Historical Museum, and you can call 734-838-0650 with your reservation. I was asked after the last meeting if I could talk about real estate and development and whatnot in Garden City. So what I did was I pulled out a book that the Conference of Western Wayne put together. It's called the Data and Resource Guide, and it says Western Wayne County is open for business. And it was facts and information put together on all of the communities in the Conference of Western Wayne, so that if somebody comes into Wayne County and says, you know, I want to have a factory, what's available out there? So all of the communities that have factories and whatever is available, they are able to go to this and find out what's available and how much per square foot, et cetera. Under Garden City, it said office, there's a 14.3% vacancy rent, and the average rent is $9.86 a foot. The retail is 5% vacancy, and it's $9.93, and there's 18.8, it's called flexible buildings that can go either way. In comparison to Westland, I found it pretty interesting because the office vacancy rate was 37.7% in Westland, and the average rent was $17.13. The retail had a vacancy rate of 10.1%, and it was a $7.96 average rent, and it was 3.4 for the flex buildings. And one other one I was going to bring to light because it's on our east side was Dearborn Heights with an office vacancy rate of 10.8% and $18.20. Retail is 7.9 at $9.98, and flex is 17.2. So when you look at Garden City, yes, it may seem like we have an awful lot of buildings that are vacant, but I don't believe that there are as many as it seems. With Garden City, it goes right along Ford Road, and sometimes you get 2 or 3 that happen to be small buildings right in a row. But when you look at the percentage rate of buildings versus how many are vacant, we aren't as bad off as some people seem to think that we are, with only 14% in office and 5% in retail. So I thought that was doing pretty good. And then just one last comment, and this is for Mr. Buckner. I'm still trying to figure out how my employment at Tipton Academy, which is a public school charter, has anything to do with my opposition to Public Act 269, or with council answering questions each week, because Public Act 269 bans communication on local ballot issues only, which creates inconsistent treatment of the state versus local issues, and that's what I'm in opposition of. And other than that, that's all that I have. Thank you.
Ms. Squire?
Just a couple of things. There are 2 fundraisers coming up this weekend to benefit our home pantry, which is located at Maplewood. There's a euchre tournament this Saturday at the American Legion Post 32 in Livonia, which is located on Newburgh, just south of Ann Arbor Trail. Registration begins at 6, and the game starts at 7. And all the proceeds will go to our home pantry. And then the following day, Sunday, January 31st, Joe D's is hosting a broomstick pool tournament. Registration is $25. You can register at 12:30, and there will be food, raffles, and all the proceeds, again, are going to benefit our home pantry. So if we have any pool players out there or any euchre players, just come on to either place or both. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Kerwin?
Yeah, not much tonight, Mayor. Just to all of you, thank you for coming and stating your concerns. Thank you. That's it.
Ms. McCarty?
Just one thing, tomorrow night, the Kiwanis Club of Garden City is having a trivia night at Albert's on the Alley. Teams of 3, 5, 6, up to, I think, 10, and it's $10 per person.
Councilmember McCarty, I think they wanted to say that that's Wednesday
That's
night.
Wednesday night.
Today's Monday, Wednesday night, yes, I'm sorry. Wednesday night. Wednesday night at 6 PM at Albert's on the Alley. The registration starts at 6, the game starts about 7:15. And I think that's about all. Mr. Molnar, thank you for your comments tonight.
Thank you. I have several things. For the record, thank you, Ms. Bettis, for giving the answers that were asked at last council meeting on the trees and the sidewalk. We do give answers. There was a question asked tonight about what the admin fees were for on the community development block grant. That's for the paperwork involved in helping the residents, low-income residents that want to refurbish their house, to apply, for them to go out and look at the house, for them to get the permits, to help them with the permits, and then the inspection after the work is done. So that's what the admin fees are for, is the paperwork to help the people get through the community development block grant. I heard about potholes. If there's potholes, call DPS. We'll fill them up. There's no hidden agenda. And Mr. Buckner, again, you've been doing this since 2007, 8, or 9, the negativity, and I just don't get it. You tried to scare the residents when we were trying to pass the public safety millage, saying it's no good, it's not going to pass. The residents passed it. You said we were going to get a lawsuit for hiring the city manager. Never came to fruition. We were going to get sued for the street light assessment. Never happened. Again, always coming up, the negativity, trying to rile up the residents. You've never come through once. Everybody up here loves this city. We don't make 6 figures. We don't drive city cars, city gas. We drive our own cars. These guys make $2,000 a year, I make $4,000. It's community service. We love this city. We're definitely not doing it for the money. Don't compare us to Detroit, Wayne County. You know, not everybody is corrupt. We're trying to do what's best for the city. A lot of us have coached in this city, have taught in this city. And I'll tell you this, your negativity, I'm on my 4th term. A lot of these people have been reelected. 11% vote. The residents of this city must like us because they reelect us. Only speak when you're at the podium, Mr. Buckner. But your negativity, you haven't won yet, and you're not going to win. There's 27,000 residents that are behind us, and there's a handful of you that come up here every meeting with negativity, and you've never won yet. You've never come through yet. And I'm not talking about the people that are the foreclosure. I'm talking about all the other negativity that you and Mr. Wysick bring up to this podium. I'm sick and tired of it, the residents are sick and tired of it, and we're all still here, okay? Well, I'm here for the 4th term, and I'm gonna be here for a while. So, nope, only speak when you're at the podium. It's my turn. I gave you your turn, let me have my turn. Okay? We gave your answers. The 6-0 vote you talk about, we just voted to fix 3 houses of low-income people. We're all for that, to help the residents. That's what they voted 6-0. I mean, poverty exemption guidelines, 6-0. Why would anybody vote against that, Mr. Buckner? We're here to help the residents of this city. Again, your negativity doesn't pay off. Now, on a good note, I'm proud of the residents of this city. DDA, employees, residents, hockey teams, GCYA, Glow Skate, Parks and Rec, and Flint native Dan Plomaden. We are donating well over 700 cases of water to the city of Flint. And there's still time to donate more. Bring the cases of water to the rear of the fire station. You have till this Friday at 12 noon. We're going to help the residents of Flint.
The American Legion is also collecting.
And American Legion is also collecting. Did I leave anybody out that's also collecting? Tipton Academy. Garden City in general. The people of Garden City are fantastic. And one more comment I wanted to make too, that somebody brought up cherry pick. Cherry pick to me means, I don't want that one.
We have litigation.
I know, I just want to finish one more comment. I don't want this, like, please don't speak unless you're at the podium. Cherry pick means I'm not interested in that house. We were offered 17, we took all 17. We didn't cherry pick nothing, we took everything that was offered to us. That's not cherry pick. No, at this time, motion's ordered to go into closed session.
Mayor,
Ms.
I
Lynch,
move to go into closed session regarding litigation.
Support.
support from Councilmember Squires. Ms. Bettis?
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobs?
Aye.
Councilmember McCarge?
Aye.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Aye.
Mayor Walker?
Aye. At this time, we're going to recess to go into closed session.